Hello, internet friends. What is up? I'm trying not to do my normal intro because you're gonna hear it in like a minute. I just want to hop in and do a quick prelude to the video you're about to watch. So basically last year, I, along with my two internet friends, Rosika from the Midnight Reader and Kelly from Kelly Seeks Books, decided to do a sort of book club. Each of us were in charge of hosting our own book club picks for an episode, and this is my episode. The first one is already up on Rosika's channel, and the last one will be premiering on Kelly's channel sometime in the near future. And we are just having a fun, goofy time. This is more for fun and less for content. And I hope that you enjoy that genuine vibe that we bring to the table. And yeah, that's it. Oh my god, I can't believe I had to start this. Okay. Bracing myself. Hello, our shared internet friends. ¿Cómo estás? I hope that you are well. Wherever the world that you are, I am joined with real friends. I told you I have them. Introduce yourself, friends.
Hi, I'm Rosika from the Midnight Reader.
And I'm Kelly from Kelly Seeks Books.
Oh, Jay, can you change mine? I couldn't figure out how to do it last time, and you were my millennial tech support.
Oh, so cute.
Thanks, Mom.
Normally when you come in, you can say what your name is.
I just come in.
I just come in. I'm here.
I appear, and my job is done here.
I'm your elder. I have arrived. Figure it out for me.
But we are continuing our book club series. This time it is my pick, which is why I have to talk the most. The two books that I pitched to you were Lagoon by Nnedi Okorafor and Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. And Rosika, I have a question for you. Had you already read it by the time I pitched this to you?
I was currently reading it, so I was very much had ulterior motives for dissuading you from assigning it as a project.
I felt so betrayed knowing that you were just posting willy-nilly about my favorite author on Goodreads because you knew I don't check Goodreads.
As a side note, if you're not familiar with the saga, Jay is constantly trying to get everyone in the world to read books by her favorite author, Kevin Wilson. And I secretly, for her birthday, read a whole bunch of books by Kevin Wilson so we could talk about them. And she tried to get us to read one for the book club, and I was already reading it. So I didn't want to read it again.
And she made a perfectly reasonable point too, which is that Jay has already read this. Part of the book club is reading new books for everyone in the club. So it was a very smart, sensible reason that she gave, even if there was secondary reasons that were not announced at the time.
It was a solid cover.
The Kevin Wilson Book Club will be a separate venture, so I'm just gonna have to do that on my own. But okay, we're here to discuss A Lagoon by Nnedi Okorafor. I'm gonna give a I got one too because I needed something to whatever, the Zoom is not working, but I needed something to take notes in. I'll get into more of why I bought it. Spoiler alert, I kept going back to the library before I could finish it. Lagoon is the story of an alien invasion that crash lands off the coast of Lagos, Nigeria, and the three main characters who make first contact with an alien ambassador. The story then just expands into chaos as all of Lagos finds out about impending alien doom. Does that sound accurate to you guys?
Pretty darn accurate.
Awesome. Okay, so I feel like we have a lot of thoughts about Lagoon, but I guess does anyone for the class want to talk about their non-spoilery thoughts about Lagoon? Sorry, Kelly, you're up first.
Can't go back to the elementary nose goes. Wow. So silent, so confident, just all right. So, non-spoilery. I think that it was not marketed well. And if I'd gone in with different expectations, I would have maybe different thoughts and feelings about it. It has a summary that suggests that it's more hard sci-fi than what it really is. It seems to be more of a blend of almost fantasy, folklore, African magical realism. And that was not what I thought I was getting into. And so it's hard to say if I would have liked it better if I had known that was what I was getting. But yeah, so I kind of conflicted based off of that. And then I felt like the stakes were very unclear. I didn't get really attached or invested in any particular character. It was kind of a little nebulous as to like where it was going. And so it just found it hard to like latch on to the story itself. So mid.
Rosika, I'm the teacher. You have to go first.
Yeah, she's
Fine.
talking the most.
I have no sympathy. I had to talk the most last time. All right. So I read Lagoon a while ago, and I want to tell the class that I reviewed zero amount to prepare for a book club meeting today. So, per my memory, and I would like to say, just a small aside, small, not a spoiler of the book, but a spoiler of my enjoyment. This was the book that I enjoyed the most out of all the books that we read in the book group. Um, I really, really enjoyed having a sci-fi-ish that was not Western based. I really loved having a sci-fi that was set in, African culture and folklore I was not familiar with at all. I really knew nothing about Nigerian folklore. And it was fun to kind of see more of that and like learn about a spider that weaves stories and time. That said, I actually really agree with Kelly because I most of the book I really just didn't know where it was going. I didn't know the stakes were very murky. It was hard to tell, are we moving towards Armageddon? Are we moving towards some kind of pivotal thing for the characters? It was hard to tell with the magic, science, system and the rules of the system. It was just all very murky, which is kind of funny because Bunny, the last book we read for our book club, also had a bunch of murky story rules and magic. So they were kind of similar in that way. I also really didn't like any of the characters, like none of them. There was not a single character that I was rooting for at any point. Really, the ones who I kind of like all died. I don't think that's a spoiler because there's so many characters. I don't think you're gonna know who dies. Um, I did enjoy it. I think I would probably rate it in like the 3.5 to 4 star range. I do think the caveat is it's probably more, you know, folklore than sci-fi. It's a very specific blend that I haven't really read in a lot of books. Probably the comparison I might draw to would be American Gods by Neil Gaiman. I think that is actually kind of in a similar vein. Um, but it was really cool to read a non-Western oriented sci-fi fantasy. Really wasn't anything that I had read before. So I enjoyed it. Just was not a 5 star new.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think it was also um, intriguing to me to read like an alien story about like aquatic aliens because I personally have never read something like that. Um, but to your point, what I think that like having it framed as like aliens crash landed to Earth really set it to be a sci-fi book. But if it was say just like a magical being, do we think that it would have played better?
I think
I think my ex.
Kelly goes,
I think. I think it wouldn't have suffered from such a confusion in my expectations, because again, like, not that expectations are everything, but it just didn't land in the same ways. It led to more confusion than necessary at the start of it, being like, what? Because like the only really hard sci-fi was like the lady who was a biologist, and she would occasionally be like, I know what kind of fish that is. And like that wasn't even relevant. And I'm like, cool. That you could take that out, changes nothing. Again, I think with the marketing, I think with the summary, it really should have been reworked. And because like this drives me nuts with publishing, where it's like they really do books a disservice when they do this, because it's kind of like when Harry Potter was newer and everything was being compared to Harry Potter, and it's like, this is no magic, children killing each other. What are you talking about? Like, this is no, you just want this to make as much money as Harry Potter. That is not why a person reads this book. So anyway, that's my little soapbox.
All right, I feel like we're getting into the non-spoilery section. We talked a little bit about what we liked, and we're definitely, I feel like the list of things we don't like is gonna get a little longer, but let's first talk about what are the things that we enjoyed about this book.
For non-spoilery,
Let's go where no, let's dip into spoilers. Let's do it.
okay, so spoiler warning for all involved. Um, Making me not be salty right now. Rude. So yeah, I think to second Rosika's point, I do think it's always interesting when you have a setting that isn't as commonly explored or doesn't get as much of a spotlight in Western publishing. And same thing with the folklore elements. I feel like, even though I complained that it could have been set up better and that the marketing could have been more honest about what we were getting, I do think it's cool to be pulling from Nigerian folklore and like this, African magical realism. I do think those are cool elements I don't see a lot of. And that was one of the things I was excited about going in, was that it was set in Lagos, and kind of learning about the culture there and things like that. I thought that was interesting. And in the beginning, especially, I liked the idea of this larger cast of characters and how, depending on their religion or their like status in society, kind of determined how they viewed this series of events slash revelations about a different living life form. And so I do like that initial premise and idea of it.
Yeah, the most interesting parts to me were kind of the Nigerian folklore. And since we're in the spoiler section, per my understanding and limited memory of what was happening, the aliens crash landed in the ocean, and something about them crash landing like triggered this rise in power that sort of caused all the gods of ancient folklore to start walking Nigeria again. And so they're just like in these random situations where there's a god in a call center that's scamming people for money. So that part was like really, really fun. And it was just cool to see these characters who I know nothing about, that are a huge part of another culture, getting the limelight. I also really kind of enjoyed that the main alien contact ambassador was a shapeshifter. I just like shapeshifting in general in stories. I also like that she had a very fuck you attitude about it, where she'd be like, "No, I'm a lizard and I don't want to talk to you for like 3 hours."
I liked in the beginning how weird the story was. I'm really open to odd media, but I think it was weird, but didn't have like a direction that I was on board with. It was too expansive for me to like lock into. And I also liked the rise of the sea creatures. I think that I was expecting the book to focus on certain things more that held my interest. And if the book had focused on the things I had gotten into it for, like you said, Kelly, it's a marketing problem. I would have really loved this book, but it just didn't go in the directions I expected the weirdness to take me. But okay, so that's what we liked. All right. Does anyone want to take a bathroom break before we get into what we dislike? We don't have time for a bathroom break. Don't say yes.
What what a weird meta thing to be like, hell, lols. Plot twist, no bathroom break.
Hold it.
Yeah, hold it. Um, yeah, the only thing I was going to add to is going off of what Rosika was saying. I did like the start of the direction of where that like alien ambassador lady was going. I thought it was quirky and a little bit different, like kind of attitude and perspective. But then she just got too whiny for me because I'm like, girl, you said you knew things about humans. Like violence is like part of our brand. I don't know why you're so confused by this. It kills me because it's just like if Jesus had social media and then he acted like he was confused by why people were mean. It's like that's, in the first 5 seconds. You weren't paying attention.
Can we please slap violence is part of our brand on it?
I mean, I know a person who can make that, so yeah. I think also like what I didn't like was just a lot of the characters are just so unlikable. I understand that humans are terrified of like the unknown and blah blah blah, but it was also really annoying to see like people cause chaos in this environment and lead to like a lot of death because they just simply won't work with the alien. It's like I get why it's happening, but I also don't enjoy watching it. That was like my main thing. My next question is like, what do we wish the book would focus on? And I'm gonna say it. I want more of the Bone Collector.
Yeah.
Bone Collector family, rise up! My favorite character. So we jumped through like a bunch of different perspectives, and one of them is the road. And then, better still, later in the book, the road rises up physically and talks to people.
Yeah, so to clarify for people who haven't read, this is a highway road situation where it's very deadly. A lot of people end up in accidents and there's a lot of fatalities on the road. And then due to alien shenanigans, it gains sentience and not only just starts talking, but like low key just starts gobbling them up.
Literally eating people.
I literally think about the Bone Collector every single time I drive to work now because there's a very specific section of road where I'm like, oh, he could live here. This feels dangerous. And there's a real aspect with like what human sacrifices, blood sacrifices, it's a thing of like folklore, but what is the thing where a lot of people die? It's road accidents. And if you have a particularly dangerous road, there's this whole concept of these are the sacrifices that power the god of the road.
Yeah, I wanted this book to be renamed The Bone Collector, and I just wanted only the Bone Collector sagas. I also wanted more sea creature stuff. For a book titled Lagoon about aquatic aliens, we spent a lot of time on land.
I was going to say also talking about things that we wanted more of. So like obviously the easy first answer for me was like I wish there was two different books. I wish there was a book where it had gone hard sci-fi and had still the setting and general concept, but sci-fi, because I still think that would have been really nifty and cool. Now leaning more into the like African magical realism element, I think one of the things this book suffered from the most for me is that unlike other books that have like a large cast of characters, there wasn't a good blend of likable, relatable characters intermixed with unlikable. Because like with Game of Thrones, it's fine to have a Joffrey. This one is Chris, who needs to die. But you can't have it range from like meh to Chris. It has to be from like, I like this character, I want them to live, to Chris. And it just didn't have that range for me. Because like it was just like I literally couldn't care. It's been a while since I've read this book. Don't remember the names other than fucking Chris, who didn't die, which kind of annoys me. Yeah, so it's one of those things where it's like like pacing wise at the beginning, I like the idea of the shorter chapters, but I think it needed to have one or two more I know it like was trying to centralize the three that first met the alien, but it didn't give significant page time before the inciting incident to really get invested in any one of them and to like really latch onto them as the primary, where it's like I care about them, I relate to them, I understand them. And then as things went on, they just grew less relatable and their decisions made even less sense. And then you find out it's like, oh, they're not even normal from the jump. And so any notion that like of that connecting with the audience and going through this crazy thing is revealed to be like, nope, just kidding. She's half fish now because she's a weirdo. And yeah, so like I think that could have been written or structured a little bit differently, and that would have helped me lock in, because like I would like read this book for the club, set it down, and then completely forget about it, and then be like, oh right, I need to pick that up, and I just had no desire to pick it up because it really helped me as a writer be like, damn, as much as like I like world building, I need to throw a character or two that people care about, because that is what kind of like pulls people back in.
Jay said something where she was like, for a book that's called Lagoon, it really doesn't feature enough of aquatic aliens. Like, we're really not in the sea very much. We're sea adjacent most of the time. And I do remember that, Lagoon is just the translation of Lagos. That's what Lagos means. And I feel like the author really wanted to make a story that was like, what if you dropped this, essentially what is an earth-shattering disaster, world-changing event in Lagos? What would happen to Nigeria? What would happen to the rest of the world? And they were trying to do that, and it was almost like a character study of a city and how like the city would behave. And I feel like it could have worked had they actually made the whole alien story more nebulous instead of less. If it was actually like a true character study of like how a city and the people in it react to this like crazy thing that no one really understands. Because even with the amount of information we had, I didn't really understand what was happening anyways. So I feel like you could either make it more nebulous for all the sci-fi aspects, or you could have, made it a whole lot less about Lagos, really shrunk down the cast and really expanded the sci-fi. I feel like we were trying to tell two halves of the story, and because we split the attention, I didn't really care about either aspect.
I love that. I agree. I think that is kind of the crux of where we're at, where it was just like we're getting detail and it's not adding up to clarity for me. So it just kept frustrating me. So I agree. Like it's just like either go all in and like really like get like a crisp understanding and like an investment in the characters and like what's going on, the nitty gritty, or have it be more of a mystery and a character study of a city. I agree. Like I think that would have been dope. And it was almost like narratively, she was kind of doing that because we were like so distant from the characters a lot of the time. Like even when we were reading a line that was supposed to be like someone's thoughts or their point of view, it just felt so like there were so many layers between me and that character still.
You just feel really disconnected from the main characters in this book.
Yeah. Yeah, and they almost feel disconnected from their own lives and their own selves. So like I'd rather, yeah, like I agree, like zoom out more and just be like almost like written like a nonfiction or historical, I think could have been a really cool element.
I think it was zoom out more or really crisp up the sci-fi aspects and trim down the characters. But that's, I don't write books. I think it's easy to get distracted and just write about the things that you're interested in.
So we talked a lot about characters, we talked a lot about communication. Um, so these first three people that we meet to start off the book, do we think that these three people were the best ambassadors to have as the human side of this human alien relation?
Better question. Can I remember the three characters that were the main
So
introductions to
no.
alien culture? There was the singer, the fish scientist. I don't remember the third dude. I don't know who the
Soldier dude that stopped a lady from being raped. Yeah, it's soldier, rapper, fish lady. And so, spoilery for the end of it, from what I vaguely remember, they're only representatives in the sense that they're all freaks with like a magical divergent spice to them, and that's why they were chosen. So like that's the only reason. It's not like, oh, they'll really help the people. And like it was wild to me that like at the end they're like, yeah, he'll sing some shit and this will create peace somehow. And I'm like, what? And it's like, yeah, because even when he was a small child, he said things and people listened. And it's just like, what? And it's like, wait, wasn't she like part fish the whole time? I can't remember. Like it was like one of those things where it's like this should have been so plot twisty, and I am so cannot be bothered at that point. Like so many things had happened. I'm like, I don't know who this like this is everyone gonna die? Is no one gonna die? Oh, that person we just met died. I don't remember his name anymore. It's fine. Like it just, and that's again like they could be subbed out for anyone because they didn't really get the investment needed to like really land it. I think the person who got the most time, so to speak, would have been Fish Lady. But I spent all of her stuff where we were with her being like, can we murder Chris now? So I didn't really get that invested in her.
So my problem, and Kelly has definitely talked about this, is that initially the book is framed as they're all on this like main beach in Lagos when a wave comes after the aliens land and it like sucks them all back out. And then they're sort of spit back onto land. Now they have an alien contact and they're getting these special powers. But at the end of the book, they had powers all along. So it wasn't like, oh, this cool thing of these three people pulled, out of random context. It was like, no, they were specifically chosen because they had pre-existing powers and they just were all conveniently on the same beach at the same time. Also, Fish Lady's husband is called Chris, and he is a grade A asshole. Okay. He's joined a cult. He's mad his lady is a scientist and having like lady financial powers. So now he's in some hyper Christian cult and he's definitely pissed off that she's talking about aliens. And then he accuses her of cheating on him. And then she kind of does like cheat on him a little bit. And then it's all really stupid. And I didn't really care about Fish Lady. I kind of liked the rapper DJ dude. He was kind of interesting, but it was all just very.
Rapper dude had a personality. Fish Lady was deciding if she wanted one or not. And the problem is like Chris was an asshole, but not even consistently. He just wasn't very bright either. And that just, you can't be both. You have to pick the thing I dislike you for. You can't be all the things. Because like there was one scene where it's like Fish Lady's like, yo, protect our children, take the children to your mom's house. And he was like whining and bitching about this. And I'm like, she's giving you the children. Like, I don't like, so it's not even like a control problem where you're like, oh man, she's going to snatch out the kids out from under me and disappear. It's like, no, you're going to like hang out with your mom, have your kids. You know, she's going to come back because you have the kids. You're not even being a horrible husband, right? Like, I don't just, oh my God.
He's like,
Chris.
you can't tell me what to do. You can't tell me to flee from this alien invasion and the danger and the rioting. I don't want to listen to you. You're not the boss.
And I'm like, there's so much death and murder. How has no one killed Chris yet? Like, come on, we could turn him into trees. Oh, I did like that element. I do like recycling the people have murdered into trees. I like that a lot. I wish there was more deaths via tree recycling.
I like that part too.
Oh yeah, that is something we didn't talk about at all, was the alien shape-shifting thing. They could also kind of transmute matter. They can change the world around them. For example, everybody's cell phone starts playing like a video of alien lady talking. Meanwhile, I'm like, how is the dude with the Nike Nokia brick or the flip phone that's not why is there's a TV when they don't have a screen? There's just a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah, it's the science of the science fiction part. It's kind of like science is like the subheader, and then fiction is like super big.
To be honest, there was like no science. That was the only thing that killed me. Where I'm like I said in the beginning, it's like it doesn't matter that she's a biologist at all. Like it actually makes it worse because I'm like, this should be relevant, and also there should be. I mean, obviously, there's some just imagination on the part of like creating magical sentience into aquatic life, but I wanted it to then be more grounded and there to be more interaction with her being like, oh, that's fascinating because it's their normal activity or behavior is this, but now it's morphing into this. Like I wanted that more elements in relationship with that. And then other than the like having the ending of like, oh, the rapper has a fan base and he's going to be singing in different places, like that wasn't scientific. Like it didn't match the science fiction and didn't like have a point. And then the soldier didn't have a science point. And like he didn't even have like a purpose as far as like, oh, he's got an in anywhere. It's like he's got less of an in because his boss has beef with him. So like they just immediately get arrested. And just wild to me. And like he's now in, like it anyway. And now like we're on a side quest, like away from the alien stuff because he got arrested. But then he's saved by a sea cow, so it's fine.
More sea cow.
Saved by a sea cow, so it's fine. It's perfect. Also slap that shit on a t-shirt.
One of you guys also sent me a text about like Chris should be immediately impaled by a narwhal. That could be a sticker.
I stand by.
That's so funny because I wasn't gonna ask this question because I was worried about us running out of time, but you like just naturally went there where I was gonna ask, how do we feel about the science part of the science fiction? And congratulations for being on the same wavelength as me. So in terms of like our wrap up thoughts, I'm curious, what are our star ratings and also out of the books that we've read, because I at this point we finished all three, like where do we want to spoil our rankings or how we feel about each of them? No? Okay. Okay, no. We're not going to do that.
We haven't even done the talk for mine, so it feels weird to do it.
You're right. You're right. We should, that's going to be, you're the finale, so we'll find out how everyone feels at the end. Okay, but what are our star ratings and what are our final thoughts about the book?
I would rate this somewhere in the like 3.5 star range. I thought it was better than just okay. And I would definitely recommend this book to like the right person. I think there is a right person for this book. I'm just not sure who it is. I don't know who they are in my life. Who needs more talks about fish and fish sci-fi. But there were aspects of it that I really enjoyed. And honestly, while I was reading it, there were little things that reminded me, like I said, of American Gods and the kind of folklore-ish aspect to the fiction part of science fiction. And it also in a very tiny way, reminded me of an absolutely remarkable thing. Because that is also, aliens kind of pop into the world and you kind of watch the world eat itself as we don't know how to deal with this thing. And it was just in a smaller lens of trying to watch how Lagos is eating itself and the world around it. So there were aspects of it where I was like, this is like a concept that I find interesting. This is storytelling that I haven't seen before with a culture and characters that I haven't got to see before. And there's a level of originality to it that I really love. And I hope I get to read more books like this. I just feel like this particular story wasn't executed as well as it could have been for me to make it like a new favorite. So I I never, this book was not a book for me where I was like, oh, I never want to read it. I never want to pick it up. It's just that I would pick it up and I would forget what I read. Like, I don't actually recall how this book ended. I remember I liked the Bone Crusher and there were a lot of fish and Chris fucking sucked. That's my takeaways from this book.
It ended with the alien ambassador becoming cocaine Jesus, and we all just have a little sprinkle of her in our bodies now.
Oh, yeah, zero recall of that. I couldn't have told you.
We just snorted the alien deity, is what happened. So I remembered it because it was redonkulous. I'm just like, what? Okay, now we're just gonna like Mean Girls crown it, but with like a couple of like space cells, apparently. But anyway, so rating. I had to look it up on Goodreads to see what I rated it as. So I gave it a 2.75 rating. I have a hard time rating things that I read all the way because of external stuff versus my own pursuit, because it feels unfair in some ways, my rating, because it's like I would have bounced. I would have not finished this book. I'm just not the person for this book. And so it feels mean on one hand to like rate it really low. But on the same hand, I want to be representative of like my experience with it and how I enjoyed or didn't enjoy something.
I want to know where you would have bounced in this book. Where in this book would you have been like, this is the
Anything with Chris. Like I just probably like 50 pages in. I bounce really quick. Kelly does not linger. If she is not having a good time, like this is for funsies. And if I'm not having funsies, bye. I just can't be bothered. And I'm reading like 5 books at the same time and just, like, you're not taking me my life book. I got limited time. I got books to read. But I would be curious to see the reaction of someone who has lived in Lagos would feel about this book, and someone who's maybe doing a PhD in like African magical realism and like Nigerian folklore. I think that'd be fascinating. And perhaps if they went in with the right expectations and like also they had obviously the knowledge and insight already of the lore that this author is playing with, I wonder how that would shape up for a reading experience versus going in blind thinking it's hard sci-fi and then it going topsy-turvy weird with a bunch of random deities that I'm not familiar with, and we're not given a whole lot of time or context with either. And then randomly, like 75% of the way through, it's like, lol, this is being narrated by a spider. And it's just like, yeah, you gotta frame that shit, bud. You can't just, throw that in when you like. Again, I as an author, yes, you're gonna roam, you're gonna wander, but it's the like editor that should be going, focus. Here's the lane. Stick to the lane. Like I have questions for the editor.
I kind of wish also that the author had just picked either Nigerian folklore deities or fish aliens. I think if we had picked one, it would have been a more cohesive story. But the fact that it split the magical focus too. And I think I would have been fine with less fish people and more Nigerian folklore. I think that would have been a more fun story, more bone crusher, less.
Absolutely. And like I agree with that. And especially because it's like, as I think we've mentioned several times throughout, it feels like two very different stories. And if you just needed an inciting incident for like why they're coming back again, you could do something as simple and as lazy as like 5G. And then you just get on with it. You're just like, fucking 5G did it. God damn it. And now folklore and deities. Huzzah. Let's keep rolling.
Huzzah! I think I do agree with the statement that if there was focus on either Nigerian deities or fish aliens, this book would have been great. you gotta pick one. There were multiple lanes that could have led to a great story, but you had to pick one lane. Okay, is that everything? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Jay didn't actually give her final thoughts. She just gave a one statement agreement. And I would like the person who chose this damn book to give me a little more context about whether or not you liked it. I bully you into giving your opinion right now, please.
Okay, you're right. I think that I went into this book with different expectations, and I'm a little sad that I didn't get those expectations met. I thought I was gonna be in for a really weird story, and I thought I was gonna focus a lot on fish aliens. So I think if the story that I had that was set up for me in like the first couple of chapters continued, I would have had a lot of fun. Although please keep the bone collector. That is truly the highlight of my life. I'll never forget the bone collector. I would have really enjoyed this book. Um, I also think that I am interested in pitching this book to someone, but I would do it as a magical realism story and not as an alien story and see if that yields better results. Those are my two main points, more bone collector and less sci-fi.
Where did this wind up on the 5-star scale for you, Jay?
Oh, wow, now I'm the interviewee. Okay. Solid 3, just like a solid in between. I liked the story, but I did find it confusing, and I probably wouldn't have finished it if I wasn't the leader of this book club.
All right, now you can outro.
Woo! Okay, so thank you for joining us for our book talk. Please check out Rosika and Kelly, although I feel like everyone is coming to me from Rosika and Kelly, so thank you for giving me a shot. But yes, thank you for watching. We got one more video from Kelly coming out at some point in the indeterminate future. And we'll see you next time. Bye!
Bye.
If you have any books that you want us to read, tell us. We read all the comments because we don't have a lot of them in the first place. So we can give you all individualized attention. Okay, now I'm done. Bye.
Look at you, saleswoman.
And thank you for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure that if you haven't already, you are following me, Rosika, and Kelly. And also shameless plug for Rosika's new podcast venture called Coast to Coast Books, in which she and her real life best friend talk about books to keep their friendship alive. I'm extremely biased as someone who's already very pro Rosika, but I think that she and Kristen are delightful hosts, and I think that you would enjoy them too. Okay, but in general, thanks for watching. I really appreciated you being here and watching our collaboration, and I hope that you stick around to see more of us in the future. Bye!